Hey folks, welcome to another episode on Power Platform and Canvas apps. In this episode, we will talk about something very specific. We'll talk about something called collections. Now, collections is something that we're going to use to store our data, but also to edit the same. So to display how, or to showcase how collections works, I have built an app. Now, this app is for registering information about a book. So I've got various fields here. I got the ID field, a title field, a description field, and an author field. I also have this gallery component on the right, capable of showing this data as I create it. First things first, let's demo the app and then let's break down what's going on. So here we have started up our application. It doesn't have much to show for. It has a title and these fields that I just mentioned. I will add various values to it. Should probably have something more intriguing than a title, but a description. I'm just going to add stuff. And of course, I, called Chris, is going to author this book. You saw a few things that happened. I hit the save button and you saw this green notification at the top, and you also saw how this data here was inserted. Let's do another one. Second title, another description, and another beautiful book authored by yours truly. I hit the save button, I see this green thing at the top again, and now I've got two different entries. Now let's showcase some other capability. We have two different icons. We have a pen and we have some kind of navigational arrow on both of these items. So let's first try the arrow, and we come to a separate page. On this separate page, we see a detail screen that showcases various aspects with this item. I can hit go back and I can do the same on the second book. So yeah, I got two entries and a detail screen. So now I got two separate screens. Now let's showcase the fact that I got a third screen by clicking this pen. So this pen will allow me to change the title. Now let's take one of my titles. Let's say Go from the Beginning, because I've actually written such a book. It's about Go, right? And it's still me. So I'm gonna hit save. This one tells me the record has been updated at the top, and I hit the back button and I can see how that record has been updated. Wait a minute, I've got a second book that I've written as well. NGRX, I can't remember the rest of the title. It was something fancy about Angular. So I'm just gonna say that, something Angular, because Chris can't remember his own books. I hit the save button, my record is updated, I hit back. Now this is the gist of the application. It has the capability to insert new data, edit existing data, and also showcase various data on more than one screen. So let's go back. This was the entire application, but if you've never built a Power app before, I got a previous video that I recommend you have a look at. Let's check the link here on the top right. But let's assume you have that basic knowledge. You know how to lay out labels, you know how to lay out text fields such as this one, and how to work with buttons. So what's new? I'm taking you from that step in your knowledge to everything else. Well, one of the first things is I want to give you a high-level view of things. We have three separate screens, and I can always click on this icon here on the left for tree view to see all of the screens. To add new screens, I would do this. I would click new screens, and then I have the option to select a blank screen or a screen with a split screen and a sidebar. For this demo, I created blank 2 times and just had them be dedicated screens. A quick look reveals that I got the second screen here, so I can click it. You can see that's my detail screen, and I got a third screen being that of the edit screen. So back to the first screen and back to what's going on here. If we look here, we see that we have 4 different input fields, but the real magic happens at the save button and the on select. So let's expand that a bit and see what's going on. We are using a collect method, and we are creating or updating something called books data. This is something that Power Platform allows us to do. We just type the name of a collection. If it doesn't exist, it is being created. If it does exist, it will just allow me to insert by calling collect this way, because the second argument to this method takes an object, and this object here has a list of keys: ID, title, description, and author, and I am taking these values from the various input fields. So first off, I'm taking it from text ID, text title, text description, text author, and so on. And right after I've collected all that data, I reset each and every single one of those text inputs. And then lastly, I'm calling something interesting called notify. Now notify, that's the thing that you saw on top, that green thing that showed that something happened. This is a great way to communicate feedback back to your user that something actually succeeded or failed. In this case, I'm giving notify an argument of a string. I say the record is saved. I also say I want to show it as a success, and I want it to close within 2000 milliseconds, meaning 2 seconds. I can always change this message depending on what's going on. If I hit a dot here, you can see that I can also select between error or information depending on what's going on, but in this case I know it's a success, so I keep on typing. So that's pretty much how we do insertions into collections. That's great, right? We get the data into the collection, but what about displaying it? Well, you have this gallery component. This is something that you can, by clicking a plus here, I believe you can go into a vertical gallery here, so you can just pull that like so. So this would add an entirely new gallery, and one of the things that you're asked to do is to select your data source. In this case, I only have the one. I have this books data collection. Let's remove this because we've already added one, right? But in this case, I have a books gallery, and you might be wondering, how did I go from that default look of a gallery to this one with a pen and navigation? Well, first time I lay this out, as I said, I go in and select my data source. I only have books data, so I don't have much to choose from. Or I could actually take accounts or activities or contacts that comes from other tables from the Dataverse. If you're not familiar with Dataverse, that's a information source that you can utilize for your apps. We're not going to use that right now, but we're going to use our own collection. I could also be bringing in data from various collectors that's available to me. So you can see, for example, I could go to the Star Wars API here and ask for data and showcase that as part of a gallery. But yeah, let's focus on that collection. Once I do that, I can go into this one, and it allows me to change the layout. So if you see the layout here, you can also see that I have various layouts to choose from. But the real nifty part comes in me being able to rearrange things. So this one gives me a default looks. That's great. I get some default layout. But if I want to edit the fields, I hit the edit button. So I hit the edit button, and you're able to see a few things that it chooses for me. So it chooses an image and a few different fields like title and subtitle. And this one, you might wonder about this one. This is something that I created by copy pasting. So I can actually go into one of these fields and copy paste like so. And this just gives me a new field. So if I had a new field here, I get a new field here, you can see. If I had a new field to actually map out other than title, description, or ID, I would have been able to select that. But because I don't have it, I'm just going to remove it. But that's essentially how I went about and added any fields that I thought were missing that needed to be displayed here. Another nifty thing is that I can also move the location of the fields. So I can just go around here and adjust accordingly. And to create this edit button here, all I did was to take this one and copied it and then pasted it. And once I did that, I could just go in here and say, hey, I want a new type of icon. I don't want 2 navigational arrows, but I might want one that looks like cancel or search or what have you. So there you got plenty of icons to choose between. Yeah, so that's how I went about to add some new fields, to have it map out new information. That's also how I added this edit action. But the real interesting part happens when I actually click edit. What then? Well, because this is an action, it has a corresponding onSelect operation here, and you can see that it does this select parent. This is not something that you need to care about. It was here already. My addition to this was adding navigate screen 3, and well, I need to have a screen 3, right? But assuming I've already created screen 3 like I showed you before, when I call navigate, it actually moves into that screen. So screen 3 is about editing something, and you can see the corresponding thing here on the navigational bit. It instead goes into screen 2. So this is how you can control what happens when I click a certain item. And the good news here is that I only need to go in and write code for one of these. This one will, because this is a gallery component, it will do the exact same thing for the second item, the third item, however many items that I have. Now you might wonder, okay, so let's say I do that for a specific item in this gallery component. How does it know what I selected? That's an excellent question. Let's go back to our tree view and let's go back to the detail screen, for example. And let me show you exactly how it knows what is being selected. So here, for example, we see that it says books gallery. That's my gallery component. And selected property is actually a great property because it holds every single column in that selected row. And I can just specify what column. So selected.id gives me the ID. Selected.title gives me the title, and so on. So remember the fact that your gallery component has a selected property. By selecting that selected property, I can just map out whatever data I have. And the go back button, just like the gallery component, is calling navigate, but this time it's navigating back to the main screen, the one called screen 1. So that's how that works. Right, so let's have a look at the edit screen. Now this one is very similar to that of the detail screen, but it's capable of saving things. But let's look at how it maps out the data. It's very similar to that of the detail screen. It just leverages the selected property on the various things that I should be able to edit. Now look at this ID here. I'm saying I can't edit it, so I make this into a label instead. The save button though is a bit interesting. There are a few approaches to saving your data. I'm choosing something called update. What update expects of me is to give it the collection of data, and then as the second argument, it expects me to tell it which is this specific row. So it needs some kind of expression that uniquely identifies this row, as what you're seeing here. So what we do is call first. Within first, we call filter. And with the filter expression, I'm giving it the collection itself, and I'm specifying what property here is unique. So I'm saying that the selected ID is how I find my unique row. If you got another unique property, you should select that instead, but that's how I find mine. And then as the last argument here, I am giving it the entire object that it should be updating. So I'm telling it your new ID should be selected ID, your title should be edit title, your description should be edit description, your author should be edit author.text. And lastly, I call this notify property, and it pretty much says success and closes itself after 2 seconds. And then we have the back button capable of navigating back into screen 1. That's actually the entire demo. So if we just recap a little bit what we went through to show you. So let's say that you had no idea what a collection was. Know that a collection is about storing data, but the good part is that collection is widely used across your Power App. So you got various components capable of interacting with the collection. The gallery component in this case was able to show things in a list, but you're also able to add various action to this so that you can have, for example, dedicated screens to do edit or view specific rows. But it's also possible to make this entire gallery component to make it editable and do all the editing within the gallery. That's also an alternative. The reason I didn't go with that version was that I wanted to also showcase the fact that you can have multiple screens, collections, gallery components, multiple screens, and also showing how you could be updating data. Hopefully you've learned some by watching this video and felt like, hey, Power Apps, I'm starting to get the hang of this. I can actually create new data, I can edit data. That's awesome. So yeah, thank you for watching this video, and please, if you like this video, consider giving it a like or a thumbs up, comment, and if you're into it, I would love a subscribe as well. So hopefully I'll see you in another video. Thank you so much for watching.